Right, we go. Come on, that's the signal. Give me the signal.
Just wait a minute. Be patient.
I think we're live, aren't we?
Yep, so. It depends how many 50p's Srinder's putting. Srinder, more 50p's, man. Bob, yep. Pedal the boat faster. Right.
Okay.
Okay, let's get on with it. So, no swearing, guys. No more swearing now. We're live, so no swearing. We've actually got a super celebrity. We've had to wait weeks to get this chap on. And look, he's a mortgage expert. He's been interviewed by Sky News, Daily Mail. I've forgotten the other one. There's another one somewhere there. Daily Mail. There's
Evening Standard.
Sorry, Evening Standard. Well done, Surinder. Good man. And now, to top it all, he's agreed to come on the Property Professional. So that's crowning. That's his crowning achievement. So let me welcome Bob. We're gonna have a bit of an argument and a debate here. So this is going to be a slightly different show. So Bob, I won't call you Captain Bob just yet because our younger viewers may not understand that joke.
Would you like me to introduce?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you might as well introduce him properly because I can't call him Captain Bob, can I? Go and Charity, off you go. Introduce him.
Right, okay, so it's my pleasure to introduce Bob Singh to TPP. Now, Bob is a pragmatic, highly experienced and knowledgeable finance and real estate professional. He's owner of Chess Estate Agents, which is a residential and commercial estate agency. And he's also Chief Executive Officer of new online hybrid estate agency, My Move, which launched in September 2021. A multi-award-winning mortgage broker with nearly 42 years of finance services experience in property, lending, recovery, mortgages, mortgage compliance, commercial finance, bridging, development finance, law, tax, and general matters. He's made appearances on the BBC, LBC Radio, and many Asian TV and radio channels. And he's also been mentioned in the Daily Mail. So, Bob, are UK property prices about to crash?
Haha.
That's our discussion.
That's the big question, isn't
it?
As of yesterday or earlier on today, I would have said yes, but we don't know how much. But I think we've got to wait till the statement from Jeremy Hunt, because that could change the direction of what we see in the months to come. I think had this resignation today not happened, yeah, things might have been a bit more bleaker. But I think there's possibly some light at the end of the tunnel if the right team come on board and get to grips with the economy. It's not going to be easy. It's a bit of a runaway train. As Dill said, inflation is running away. Yeah, it's 10.1. And that's just the massaged figures, I feel, as well, because I think, over the years, the composition of the consumer price index basket has been changed to maybe reflect things that don't go up so much in price. So inflation always looks artificially low. But in reality, you go to Sainsbury's or Asda or wherever you shop, and you're not spending a lot more money to fill that basket up. Yeah,
hey, Bob, talk about shopping, right? And this will be relevant to you. I ended up listening to the news for various reasons earlier, and I usually try not to listen to it. Apparently, they're saying even the Waitrose customers are changing their shopping habits. So if those guys are changing it, it must be dire. People like you, basically, right?
Sorry, I've never been to Waitrose.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, I think every sector of the community is feeling it. Yeah, it's obviously worse at the bottom. Food banks are so busy that they're really crying out for people to leave food so they can actually service their customers. But it's affecting all levels. I mean, we're feeling it because our energy bills have gone up, pretty high. Petrol, went to £2 a litre, it's now to 170, 180. So that's made a bit of a difference, but generally, it's hurting. And the biggest hit between the legs is going to be the mortgage payments. When soon as people start to come off their fixed rates, and there's 1.9 million mortgages due to come off next year alone, those people are going to find it very tough because their payments are going to be jumping up on average £500 plus per month. And that's going to eat into their disposable income, and therefore that, you know, sort of flows into, you know, that money is not going to flow into the economy. They're going to be cutting back on on sort of luxuries, on takeaways and that sort of thing. So, you know, it's going to be a cycle. It will affect everyone. UK will go into a recession, there's no doubt. And just on the way here, Jeff Bezos said, batten the hatches, a recession is around the corner. So I think, yeah, I think we will see a correction in prices, definitely. I think the figures that we see, you know, from Rightmove and Nationwide and everything else are, you know, not real figures. They're sort of dated, and the land registry figures are even more older. I think we've just got to wait to see what happens in the next 2 or 3 months, see what those figures come out at to get a real idea. But I know I'm at the sharp end, and the phone isn't ringing anymore.
100% agreed. 100%.
The phone isn't ringing anymore. So we know that demand will wane off. That will manifest itself into a decrease in demand. Sellers will have to be a bit more realistic, and valuers are already brutal as it is. So they're going to be even more brutal and down value properties in the months to come, because they are not wanting to expose themselves too much to any lawsuits from the lenders, because they're ultimately responsible to the banks for giving accurate valuations in the event of a repossession scenario. So I think, yeah, lots of changes, a lot of moving parts happening around the country in various economies. And I think it's a bleak outlook.
So thank you for the really great news, right? So as you're at the real sharp end, the real cold face.
The Grim Reaper.
Yeah. I mean, there was a mortgage meltdown a couple of weeks ago. We tried to get you on board. Obviously, you were busy with Sky and all the lesser media outlets. So well done for making it to the real big one. You know, the property professionals. You finally made it, right? So anyway, those guys who are getting off fixed deals, what is the best current rate, A, for residentials and B, for buy-to-lets at the moment, right now, that they can get? Roughly.
Okay, at the moment, the best deals are around, on a fixed basis, for say 5 years. They're around 5.5% to 6%.
Wow.
And set to go higher.
Yeah.
Possibly. And on the buy-to-let, they're around 6% as well. However,
that's for a 5-year fix, right?
That's typically for a 5-year fixed rate. The consensus within my community is that, yeah, fixed rates are good if you really want comfort and security and know where you're going to be for 5 years. But we also know the 5-year swap markets have eased slightly since Kwarteng went.
Yeah.
And I think today's news will help ease those swap rates even further. So I think, yeah, base rates will touch nigh on 5%. There's no doubt about that. I think the next month's rise is going to be quite significant, possibly the biggest to date. And then maybe more next year. You know, 5% is definitely on the cards, because inflation isn't just coming down right now. So they've got to go, you know, higher and quicker to control inflation. Otherwise, the damage is done for longer. So the Bank of England won't want to be caught napping as it's done in the last 2 years. They really should have acted a lot sooner, but they didn't. But now they're having to, you know, come in a lot harder and faster to stave and control inflation. So yeah, 5 and 6% on buy-to-lets doesn't really make any sense in the south. The yields are, you know, 4%. So if you're paying 6% on your mortgage and you're only your yield is 4%, then, you know, it doesn't make economic sense. It's not going to give you an income straight away. And yeah, it's going to be a very long-term hold for that property to even see any appreciation given what's around the corner. We're expecting, you know, easily a 5 or 10% downturn. Has to be.
Right. So you talked about a 5-year fix. What about a 2-year fix? What are they like? And what's the non-fixed rate at the moment?
Okay, the 2-year rate's very similar to the 5, because all the 2, 5, 10-year swaps are pretty much identical.
Okay.
So there's not much difference. It's a question of how long you think you want that security for,
right,
before you maybe have to make another decision. So some people, you know, don't want to know. You know, they're not heavily geared, so they're happy to lock in for a 5-year basis. But if you're really nervous and, you know, if you think, or if you're of the mindset that rates are going to drop in 2 years, then people are going for a 2-year rate. But the interesting thing is, fixed rates are quite high, 5.5, 6, whereas the tracker rates are 3, 3.5.
Okay, so there's a difference between the fixed rates, 2 to 5 years
Yeah.
are the same, and
Yeah,
the trackers are lower.
there's almost a 3% differential between the discount and tracker rates versus the fixed rate. So if you think that, I'll take the discount and I'll take my chances, base rate or the lender's variable rate has to rise by 3% for you to be any worse off, or to be equal to what you would have taken on the fixed rate equivalent. So if it takes you 18 months to reach 6% on your variable, then you've really benefited by that period of time, haven't you, really? And I don't think they're going to go beyond 6. That's going to be suicidal for UK PLC, if rates are 6%, because the payment shock will be so severe from somebody coming off a 1% 5-year fixed rate and going up to 6. That's going to kill them.
Well,
So
yeah, sometimes literally.
This pain isn't going to go away overnight.
Yeah.
Bob, you said the phones have stopped ringing. Explain what you mean by that. I mean,
So
have they literally stopped ringing? If they have, then the market should be dropping now.
Could you repeat the question, Surinder?
You said your phones have stopped ringing.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by the phones have stopped ringing in your business?
In
sorry. I've got this hearing issue. I don't know what it is. I think it's nervousness. I think people are waiting for the political landscape to stabilize. They definitely are spooked by the rates.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we've got purchases that are going through at the old rates. So, there's going to be thousands and thousands of mortgages so keen to complete on the old rates, because if those mortgage offers expire, the new rate's going to be double and treble what they had on offer from the lender. So, in the coming months, there's going to be an awful lot of pressure on solicitors to complete those early deals. Otherwise, lenders won't be renewing those offers, very easily. So I think, but to buy a buy-to-let property now, I think you really need a very good reason to do it. Yes, if you have to buy to live in and it's all affordable, and if you can afford 6%, great. You've got to go ahead with that transaction. But any unnecessary purchase, I think, needs a second thought.
Good advice. So, am I right in thinking that the buy-to-let mortgages were stress tested at 5.5% up until now? Is that right?
Yep, 5.5. Yeah,
5.5. But residential homes weren't stress tested, were they?
They were.
Okay, and what level were they stress tested at?
7%.
Oh, okay. So previously, when people bought housing to live in, their personal residential, their stress test was at 7%.
Yeah, the FCA had given this sort of edict to lenders to say, look, they've got to be able to afford at 7% for you to lend that money.
Yeah.
Now that stress test was taken away by the FCA, but the lenders have still kept it in place.
Oh, okay. So it's not compulsory. It used to be done. And when did it get taken away?
About 2 months back.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a bit silly, wasn't it? Right.
Yeah. But again, nobody saw this coming. So, even the FCA, had they known this was going to happen, wouldn't have taken away that stress test calculation as a mandatory feature of underwriting. But now it's a voluntary feature of underwriting. So residential tests are at 7. So, it still means people can afford mortgages, but they're having to pay a lot more for it, even though they might not be happy about it. But the buy-to-lets are the killers. Stress tests have gone from 5.5% to 8.5% in some cases.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And 145% of that, if it's a HMO, 175%. That's not across the board, but there are certain lenders who really don't really want the business, to be frank. Yeah. They've raised the rates, they've raised the bar. They'd rather catch up with the old cases and try and get those through, rather than be inundated with business at what were really artificially low rates for the last 12, 13 years. Yeah,
so that came about because of the 2008 fiasco. We should have gone into a recession. They thought they'd manage it by lowering the rates, but now we're going to end up paying for it. I don't know how bad it's going to be, right?
It will be bad. We're not going to see those rates again.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
yes, we're not going to
yeah.
see the rates again. What do you
No.
think they're going to peak at the moment?
I think we'll be sort of going back to the 25-year average of around 4.5%, 5%.
And that's the bank rate, or is that the borrowing rate?
That's the mortgage rate. So
Mortgage
people
rate.
will pay around that. So base rate will hover around 3.5%, 4%.
Okay. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
And
I can't see 1% or 0.1% base coming back.
That was obviously silly, right?
It was silly, but inflation was so low, so they could do it. But now inflation is 10.1, going to go to 12, 13 or whatever. And
Charanjit, you had a question?
yeah, I was just going to say, Bob, what do you think the forecast is for next year in terms of the rates? Any ideas? I mean, given that inflation is still upward.
well, the consensus is base rate will be 5 something.
Okay, so
It was 6 before Kwarteng left.
okay,
So it's gone better. So I think that's what I'm saying. Wait till 31st, wait till the fiscal statement from Jeremy Hunt. If that's good, if the market receives that well, that will have an impact on the swap rates, the 5 and the 10-year products. So it could be that the whole mortgage market goes through some sort of metamorphosis, because we always do 5-year products. We can't remember the last time I did a 2-year deal.
Wow.
But other brokers do 2-year deals in the hope that the client keeps on coming back every 2 years. They can charge them again. They get another kickback from the lender every 2 years. I think that will stop. I think people will now not take short-term view. They'll be taking a longer-term view. And obviously, if you read the press or if you read the financial press, you know that consumer duty rules are coming in shortly. And that's going to place even more onus on financial advisors to make sure their clients are looked after in every respect. There's the duty of care now is pretty high anyway, because we can't be giving wrong advice or, to the customers. But when the consumer duty rules come in, we have to change our whole model and, review the way we do things to make sure the client isn't at any stage of the process disadvantaged. And that, that's going to be a big shift in financial services when that comes in.
So what are these rules? The ones we're talking, consumer rules.
Consumer duty rules.
Yeah.
December.
What are they? Could you give us some of the main ones?
It's a manual that thick, so it's more to do with how you treat your customer. Obviously, there's already the TCF, which is treat your customers fairly. This just goes a bit further. If you have certain way you do things in terms of dealing with vulnerable customers, make sure they actually get rounded advice and not just the mortgage product, and say take this and off you go. You've got to make sure they've got the life cover in place, the right protection, the right insurance, the wills and trusts are in place. You've got to be more of a global advisor going forward and not just a one trick pony doing mortgages. So we're lucky, because we do most things that clients want us to do. But those guys sat in estate agency offices or people that just do mortgages and don't do anything else, they'll maybe feel the heat a bit more because they may not be able to comply with those rules.
Okay. And just the 2-year versus the 5-year fixed things. Are the penalties different for coming out of those?
Typically, no. Penalties are pretty much the same. Some lenders have a penalty that's level all the way through.
Okay.
So whether you redeem on day 1 or days, 1 month before the 5 years is over, the penalty is the same. And some lenders have a sliding scale. So the longer you go into the fixed rate product, the lower the penalty. So again, that's, you have to ask your broker, is it a sliding scale penalty or is it level penalty? But the good thing about the trackers, which I mentioned earlier, and the discounted rates, is that there's no exit penalty. So if things do get a bit hairy within that 3-year period, you can actually jump ship and maybe go and lock into another fixed rate product elsewhere.
So just tying you up to this 5.5% peak, you reckon that's right next year? Is that where it's going to peak, or do you think it'll go further? From what
I think the rates won't go beyond 5.5, 6. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I know some people are talking about 7, 8, but no, that won't happen, given what's happening on the swap rate markets. And if the new government to be, shall I say, whoever comes in as leader gets their act together, then yeah, that'll be good news, I think, for the markets. I think that'll be well received. I haven't seen what the pounds have done since Liz Truss resigned, but I guess that will have edged up slightly in confidence. It has, yeah.
It has,
yeah.
And a lot of this is about confidence, isn't it?
It's about confidence. It's about knowing the right people are at the helm. Clearly, Liz Truss was at odds with Rishi Sunak in the run up to the leadership. Clearly her ideas proved to be inflationary. So Rishi Sunak's been vindicated, but it's too late for him now.
And what about the impact on first-time buyers of what's happening?
Really, really feel sorry for them. They are going to have it pretty bad because the Help to Buy scheme's finishing in March, but the last applications are this month. So if you're not in by now, you can forget you Help to Buy. So they're not going to get any financial assistance going forward until a new scheme is launched, and there's nothing proposed as we speak. So Bank of Mom and Dad is going to be very, very important in the months coming ahead.
Plus affordability, right? If interest rates are higher, then
if affordability is, as I've said, the calculations are done at 7, so they probably will get their loan, but the payments will be eating so much more into their take-home salary. It's not really going to leave them enough to live off and pay the bills comfortably, because lenders are factoring in ancillary costs as well. It's not just the mortgage product cost they factor in, the bills, the traveling, the eating, the children, all those factors get fed into the computer in the back end for a maximum loan sort of qualification. So we know that's dropping. We know 5.5, 6 was possible before all this, but now if you get 4.5, you're lucky.
So Bob, just to clarify, you're not saying eat your children as a way of getting rid of double expenses, are you?
Eat your children.
No. Right.
I love kids, but I couldn't eat the whole one. Yeah.
No, okay, all right. Look, so just going back to first-time buyers, yeah. Do you think this shock in interest rates might be a silver lining in that? I remember sitting on webinars early 2020 when the rates were being sort of put to the floor, stamp duty to the floor. And they were saying, we've seen this kind of, I was going to swear in it there. We've seen this kind of stuff going on before where the Maris got withdrawn, stamp duty holidays, it puts an artificial bubble, and we're going to come back and regret this, which is what's going to happen now, right? So for first-time buyers, because the rates are now going to be projected at realistic and it's been such a shock, do you think that's going to affect the prices so that it'll make properties more affordable in terms of the amount of the price they have to pay for a property, the drop in the price?
Yeah, it's a natural consequence of what's happening. So, when the market slows down, prices will come down as well. So properties might come back in the reach of first-time buyers, which they're clearly not right now. And if the price is less, people will borrow less. So it should get better for first-time buyers, but hopefully another scheme will be launched where they do get government assistance with the deposit to help them on the ladder. And there's not enough house building going on, as we all know. The government's far from its.
I'm going to disagree with you there, right? So look, this thing about not enough homes, you watch when the interest rates get to 5.5%, suddenly there's going to be enough homes because no one's going to want to buy them at the price they are. The home shortage disappears. I've seen this in previous recessions.
Yeah, demand will wane off, and and obviously then people may not want those houses anymore. Particularly if they're overpriced. And when you buy a new home, you pay a premium for it. So, and given what the market is predicting, which is a bit of a come down, then if you borrow 95% during these times, you probably will be in negative equity in 18 months.
So when you say a bit of a come down, come on, man, put some figures on it. How far from the peak, let's say when Truss got into the office, if that's at 100%, how far is it going to fall to the bottom? Make a prediction and put a pound bet on it.
Yeah, I know it's a tough question, but I mean, my feeling is 10%.
10%.
Can I come back on that demand issue you were saying?
Yeah.
If people are not buying houses, we're not getting a reduction in our population. They'll have to go for rented accommodation. The demand for houses is not going to decrease just because the interest rates have gone up.
No, it does.
It does not.
Surinder, think about it, right?
So it's based on affordability, Surinder. You know, if you can't afford to buy the house that you wanted to buy, you're not going to buy it.
No, but you're going to go and rent somewhere. So there's going to be demand for
I mean, there'll be a geographical shift because, you know, in my neck of the woods, a house is what, 500K. It's not first time buyer territory. So we are regularly seeing people travel up to Luton, Hemel, Newport Pagnell, beyond, happy to travel into work just to get a house around the 250 level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think whilst, you know, rates are going to be expensive and people can't buy in the areas that maybe, you know, in London, I think the rest of the country will still see some activity, but I think where prices are high, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and don't forget, we've got this thing called Zoom that sparked off in the last 2 years, which means people were looking at commuting 1 to 2 days a week rather than 5 days, which makes, like you said, living further afield much more feasible.
Yeah, and lenders are also understanding that concept a bit better because before, distance between work and home was always a feature in underwriting. You know how far. Yeah.
What the mortgage underwriters looked at how far your house was from where you work.
Absolutely.
I don't really. Wow, that's shocking.
Yeah. They look at how far it's gonna, because they don't want a backdoor buy-to-let.
But a buy-to-let is cheaper. It's easier to get a buy-to-let than a residential home.
No, no. A residential requires a smaller deposit.
Okay. What's the deposit differences?
Buy-to-let is 25% minimum, isn't it? So a house you can buy at 5% deposit if you have the right earnings. So you know they're quite careful. You know, what they don't want is somebody to get fed up of traveling 2 hours each way every day, and then saying, "Oh, I want to let this house." You know, they want to see some sort of sustainability in your working pattern, that you're not traveling 3-4 hours a day and, you know, working 7. You know, it's going to be a very tiring situation. So they're very careful, and the computer tells them what the different distance is. You know, they've got amazing systems in their underwriting that tell them how far.
Talk about Big Brother, right? Talk about Big Brother, yeah.
Yeah, they know a lot. Yeah.
So, and now they're factoring in this ability to zoom into work and work from home. I hope. Yeah,
they're understanding that people are and can work from home.
Oh, okay.
So, you know, that these days we can do long distance home buying. You know, we have some lenders that don't really bat an eyelid, even if it's 150 miles away. So, you know, again, that's our knowledge as to which lenders are a bit more flexible on distance and which are not. So, and those that will actually pick it up and say, no, it's too far.
Wow.
Bob, coming back to this question of recession, which, well, we say it's impending, it's not here as yet. How long do you think it will last?
The recession will last, my feeling is 2 years.
Yeah,
2 years. So
agreed.
We have a period of
2 years,
of dropping prices.
These things are like oil tankers. They don't turn around overnight. It does take time for the inflation figures to feed in, the property prices to feed in. And then if it all goes in the right direction, I think within 18 months, 2 years, we should be able to see low interest rates again. And then the economy can, sort of start moving on again.
So you go on, sorry, let you finish first.
And don't forget, the election is in 2 years. So
that's right. That is exactly my point.
Leader now comes has a very big task to make sure, their party stands to win. So they're going to do everything in their power to actually turn the economy around and show people that they can manage the economy. Otherwise, the Tories won't come in next election.
I don't think they're coming in anyway, mate. Don't matter who they bring on.
I think people, if they see this progress and things are better than what they've seen in the last year, they may well still do that.
I'm willing to put a £1 bet with everybody here. The Tories are not going to win the next election, and I'm not. I don't even like politics, right?
It's difficult, of course. The Labour lead is just too much, and too much mess has been created. And as soon as it starts to hurt people financially, they don't forget easily.
No.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's odds on Labour, but I think if things go pretty well and taxes can start to come down, because at the moment they need to keep the taxes high so that revenues are maintained to meet the public spending. But if in 2 years' time things are different and they can start to look at reducing income tax back to 19%.
Do you remember? Do you remember the Blair election? I mean, the economy had turned around, but he got in because people were so fed up with the Tories by then.
Yeah, public sentiment is unpredictable, isn't it? So I think
you should be. So, Bob, when are you running for number 10? We might as well have you because you can answer questions like a politician, right?
I'm not.
Bob,
not yet.
We had a.
I live at number 8, so I'm fine. I'm fine at number 8.
Bob, we had a speaker last week, and his prediction was the prices will go up next year by
house prices.
Yes, by 7 to 10%. And his reasoning was that one of the main factors is there's 300,000 people coming in from Hong Kong with cash in their pockets, and it doesn't affect them what interest rates are.
I don't think there'll be any significant increase if there is one. I'm expecting a fall, purely because 300,000 people versus the whole buying market is only a very small fraction, and Hong Kong people are going to buy in prime central London. So, the price of prime central London flats has actually risen again.
I don't know whether you saw a documentary on where they're buying. They're buying everywhere in the country, not just in London. They're not people who are at the top end. They're the people who have been given the right to come to this country to escape from the Chinese.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Surinder, I'm going to agree with Bob. Even if there's 300,000 rock up, they can all buy it in Southall. Prices might shoot up there. But that's it. That's a one-time bubble, right? It's a one-time hit to the property market.
And I think, can I just say as well, I think the other factor is that people's salaries are not going up in line with inflation. So again, this comes back to affordability, right? So if wages...
All down to affordability, yeah. Rates at 2.5–3% are palatable. Rates at 6 and 7 are not.
Yeah, but people's salaries aren't keeping up with the increases, are they? So
no. And employers aren't investing. They're not giving pay rises or anything like that at all because they're also unsure about their future. The business, they have to safeguard the business going forward.
Talking about pay rises keeping up, Surinder, when do we get a pay rise that beats inflation? So me and Charanjit
you got one last week, and now you're complaining again.
You're self-employed, mate.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
That's the problem.
No
sick pay.
No, technically I'm not. No, Bob, I am not self-employed. Just my boss is a tight. I was going to swear there. Right. All right. Sorry. So you reckon? Look, going back to 2020, from there to today, or pre-Liz Truss, shall we say, house prices went up by about 20%.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah.
You reckon, and that's paper gains unless you manage to sell in at the peak. I've already seen people coming off that peak saying, no, your neighbor might have sold it 6 months ago. I'm not going to offer you that much, right?
No.
And you reckon it's only going to reverse 10%? We've had a 20% increase from 2020 prices to today.
I think people have a choice to sell or not. So if they don't get the right price, they won't sell.
Okay.
I think 10% is quite a lot nationally as an average.
Nationally average, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Because some could fall more than that. Some will, in the more desirable areas, they tend to hold their prices a bit more. So London may not go down as much because it's still the capital. People still want to live here. But I think in the more affordable areas, where the local economy isn't as strong or employment isn't as strong, those sort of areas are quite vulnerable. And we've got strikes around the corner.
I've got one there.
There's going to be a lot of disruption coming, and that is not a good sign for the coming winter.
Yeah, I'm going on strike next week.
Are you? Good. Okay.
Where are you going?
Well, I've got to tell you, soon. I'm not going to be here next week, so I'm going on strike next week. So.
But, you're not postman, are you?
Hey? No, they're around the corner. You might hear the horns. They're having a strike around the corner from me. So look, So you reckon it's going to be a 10% drop in the property market, 2-year kick, and how long after these things? And I'm guessing this is your 4th recession you've seen, right?
I can't remember now, but I've been through a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is probably your 4th one, if the numbers tie up. And I was talking to Surinder earlier before you got here. So I said, yeah, recessions are usually 18 months, 2 years downwards. How long do you think the recovery trajectory is? I believe it's about 3 years. What's your view on that?
Trajectory before we come out of the recession?
Now, from the bottom of the recession, before people realize that we're out of the recession, how long? What period?
No, I mean, there's different schools of thought here, because these things tend to snowball. So once a recession starts, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it can get really bad. And to come out of it can take a long time. So 3 years is not unreasonable, but it will all be underpinned by inflation and interest rates. As long as they're good, it's going to be fine. The saving grace with the UK PLC is that employment is still high. There's lots of vacancies.
That's because of Brexit, right?
Yeah, that's because of Brexit, because everybody left to go to Europe. So
they said, we don't want to be here if you don't want us.
A lot of vacancies. If people want the jobs, they are there.
But they pay rubbish money.
They pay rubbish money, so people don't do them, and they'd rather stay on benefits.
No comment on that one.
Yeah, so I think it needs a complete overhaul. Benefits are there for the unfortunate. We all can fall sick or have accidents, and but those people that rely on them because that's their way of life, that's where maybe some sort of review is required.
Well, Bob, you say that if the employers paid the right amount of money for people to live, they wouldn't be on benefits.
I agree with both of you there, you see, because
but a lot of businesses can't afford to pay £15 an hour.
If they can't afford to, then those people who can't afford to buy their food, well, how are they supposed to starve?
Well, unless you have prescriptive minimum living wages and things like that coming in, which will be sort of anti-industry, and it's anti-Tory, so that's a Labour policy.
No,
we're not talking about politics here. It is basic humanity. If people are not paid enough to live on, it is not going to work. What you're really saying is, you can exploit anybody and anyhow you like. You can make the money. The rest can just
let's look at it differently, right? I do agree with what you're saying, but I have a different view on this. So, if you pay a higher rate or a higher wage rate, you're going to get encouraged to take on more productivity measures. So you're going to invest in productivity tools, right? If someone costs you £10 an hour, maybe that's a low example. If you're going to pay someone £15 an hour, you're going to make sure they're more productive. So you're going to invest in the equipment and the tools they use, whether that's manual tools or IT training or however it is. So, and having higher minimum wages can be a good thing, i.e. it makes you think about how you're going to invest in productivity, making your staff more productive.
I'm not talking about minimum wages or anything else. I'm talking about
you can increase your prices. You can increase your prices, but then you become uncompetitive, and then there's a risk of business failure because the biggest cost is going to be staff wages.
Which in our capitalist society means if we can't pay the wages your employees need to live on, is either the state supports it or you go bust.
Yeah, but Surinder, don't forget, I do agree with your point. Early 2020, when Rishi Sunak put in the furlough scheme.
No, let's not talk about extraordinary circumstances.
No, but
normal circumstances.
There's a learning lesson here. There was a lot of people that were self-employed, had their own businesses that were earning less than the minimum wage. If you've got a business that either pays you less than a minimum wage or your staff, you want to think about if that business needs to be there.
That's
right?
it. That's what I'm exactly trying to get at. That if these businesses can't afford, then it's not a viable business.
I have to agree with you there. And Bob, sorry, mate, you're going to lose on that one.
And also, a lot of these businesses were given free money, weren't they, during the last 2 years?
They were, but I
They
mean,
were given...
just to sort of finish off my point, I mean, not everybody on benefits is sitting at home. A lot of them do work as well.
Yeah,
So
that's
the benefits
my
are a
point.
supplement to that, or a supplement to that income.
So why should a taxpayer have to supplement an employer getting an employee to work for him?
Bob, when you say a lot of these people work as well, you're not talking about unofficial work, you're talking about
legal work.
Legal work. So they're allowed to work and get
they're allowed to work, yeah. And obviously if there's a gap in their gap in their needs, universal credit does provide them with assistance towards bills and rents and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so
that's my point. Why should the state have to supplement an employer to have his employees?
Yeah, because a lot of these people can't work full time, Surinder. They've got kids, they have to work around schools, so their income can never be as good as
well, yes, one partner maybe, not the two partners. If there is only one partner, then it's the kids and things. That's another duty of the state to look after that. Everything is being put on the state, and yet the employers are getting away with paying.
Yeah, that's because the state has provided those benefits, and then I can't see any employer who would tolerate a 50% increase in their wage bill and survive. So well, the government's got a fine balance between.
It's supposed to be
to help.
It's supposed to be survival of the fittest, isn't it?
No, come on, sir. It's not survival of the fittest. You wouldn't be here if it was, right?
Well, I wouldn't be here, yeah, but no,
I mean,
the thing is,
I don't think me and Bob would be here either. Actually, if it was survival of the fittest.
Yeah, I mean, life is tough, Surinder. I mean. Yeah. You can't expect the best in life by sitting on your backside. You've got to go out there, retrain, educate, make the effort. Oh, I'd like to sit at home all day and
these people who are getting benefits are not sitting on their backside. They're sometimes working 2 or 3 jobs.
I know many who are, Surinder.
Well, there are there's not. It's not. Yeah. That's not the rule of all of them.
Oh no, Surinder, hang on. You're not going to get away with that left-wing nonsense, right? You can't say it's the exception. You have to give the numbers. And when
that's what I'm asking Bob.
When universal credit comes in fully in 2024, we will know the figures. And that's another point that's going to come around. There's a lot of large employers that deliberately hire part-time staff that is subsidized by the state. That's got to be wrong, yeah?
If the job is part-time, it's better than nothing, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think Brown started this thing off because his intention was to get people into work so they can move themselves along the economic ladder. Yeah.
Just imagine all the benefits stopping. What would happen in the UK tomorrow? Civil warfare.
Civil warfare, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's already going on at number 10, isn't it?
Can I just change the subject to talking about the recession again?
Yeah, why don't you bring the tone? What is really fun? Go for it.
So, Bob, I just wondered what your view was, because yes, we're going into a recession, but in previous recessions, we didn't have as much debt as there is in the economy right now with all the money they've printed. So that's a bit of a concern in terms of how deep the recession is and how long. Do you think that's, a fact?
Yeah, I mean,
factor?
Governments deal in billions and trillions. Yeah, what we borrow is hardly anything when you compare it to the overall GDP, and when you compare it to America's borrowings, it's nothing. The key drivers are a high employment, efficient collection of taxation, and giving entrepreneurs incentives to actually set up business and start employing people. Yeah, there is some sense, and if you look after the entrepreneurs, they can actually create the jobs and everything else, which is what a bit of Liz Truss politics, but that's what she was after. She wanted the rich to get wealthier so they could invest. But how many of them will? They'll probably just pocket all the cash themselves. So,
Charanjit, I'm going to come in terms of inflation there. That's a really good point, and I'm going to quote my old economics teacher, Mr. Thomas. Mm-hmm. And this is a hard thing to get your head around. He said, "Listen," and this is just after the 70s, sometime after. He said, "Look, everybody thinks inflation is bad." He goes, "But inflation is great for me because my mortgage stays the same level. If my wages go up in terms of level compared to my debt decreases in relative value. House prices go up, your debts go down as a portion of how you earn. So inflation isn't bad. And I'm suspecting the government's deliberately put some inflation in because that's how you erode national debt. You know, you've got 2 years of 10% inflation. Suddenly, in 2 years' time, your debt's gone down 20% in real value.
Dale, you missed out one aspect of it. Interest rates going up.
Well, the interest rates are they're just trying to squeeze the inflation out because they don't want to get into hyperinflation.
But the equation was inflation, I'm getting more salary, but the house is going up, but also the payments for the house are going up as well.
Yes, okay, so look, for 2 years, the interest rate's going to rise, but they're going to come and level up, right?
Well, we don't
At some point, they'll find an equilibrium.
Well, we've been through, bank rate's been 17%, so...
No, we're not going to get there. There'll be civil war if that happens.
Well,
I think Bob's absolutely right. Maximum will be 6%. You're not going to survive any more than that. There will be huge chaos if we get to more than 6%.
Yeah, because this is an unusual situation, isn't it? Usually interest rates are going down in a recession, but we've now got a situation where actually interest rates are going up.
Well, yes, but the other thing is this is what they call a supply side recession. Supply side inflation, because you've got China that's still offline. Those are the guys that are producing a lot of the goods. You can't get cars for 2 years, as people will tell you. And then on the other side, you've got this Ukraine war that's causing inflationary shock for fuel and petrol. Yeah. And this is what happened in the 70s. That's a supply side shock. But turning the interest rates up will dampen all the demand because everyone's thinking, bloody hell, I better get ready. Sorry, that's not a swear word. I better get ready for this £5,000 and £6,000 bill a year. And now they've scrapped it for the year after. So everyone's thinking, yeah, we're going to have £5,000 and £6,000 housing bills. We're going to have this. We can't do the figures previously on 2% interest rates. We better budget for 5 or 6%. So house prices are going to come down at an equilibrium. But don't forget, you know, with the energy, when it goes to £5,000 and £6,000 a year, you've got the potential of solar cells being installed now because it's not like the 70s where it's one way. It's just petrol, right? Now you've got options of solar cell and solar and wind energy. So, you know.
But both unreliable. I prefer nuclear.
You're going to go nuclear, are you?
Solar cells fine. You know, we got two months of sun in a year. Wind, yes, depends on where it is, but nuclear's clean, safer.
No, mate.
More controllable.
Nuclear will also give you 7 fingers, right?
Well, you can work harder then.
You can work harder. Yeah, the keyboards aren't designed for 7 fingers. Very good, sir. They're very good. But look, currently 45% of our energy is from renewables. And it's shocking how they've mispriced that. Anyway, that's this. Right, getting back to this property housing. If you're a property investor, Bob, what would you do?
I would really sit back for now. I wouldn't buy any more, if I'm honest with you. I think until you're sure that you can get the yields again, and it makes sort of economic sense to buy property, I'll just sit back. I would look to consolidate your position.
That's bad for your business, isn't it?
It is bad for my business, but I'm an honest advisor. You know, I genuinely will be telling people not to buy, to sort of look at maybe other forms of investment. You know, it's not always about property. Property is one facet of your investment portfolio. You know, there's
other forms of investment. What are you saying? This is a property show, mate. Wash your mouth out with soap and water. What are you saying?
What I'm saying is take advice from an IFA, because it's not all about property all the time, because property is cyclical. It will go up and down. It is a long-term investment, but there are other investments that can perform equally as well.
Hang on, I'm going to re-quote you there. Take advice from an IFA. So I've got one right in front of me. What else do you recommend, Bob?
I'm not an IFA. I'm a mortgage advisor. I'm talking about people who advise on stocks and shares and everything else like that, and venture capital trusts and enterprise investment schemes.
Oh no, man!
The clever stuff.
I I think it's time to diversify, right? Is that what they call it?
I
Diversification.
think it is. Yeah, I think this is probably a lesson for most people that have maybe heavily geared themselves and taken on too much debt. And as soon as they come off those lovely 1 or 2% rates and start paying 6, it will hurt.
So, Bob, on that point, you've obviously lived through a few recessions, probably 1 or 2 more than me, right? No comment. Yeah. How do I explain? So, yes, when things go pear-shaped, it looks bleak. What's your experience of going through the bottom of the recession, coming out the other end in terms of pure property? I'm not talking about shares and crypto and all the rest.
I think this is what I'm saying. Be liquid.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have the cash ready, because cash is king in a recession, and you can make as much money in a recession as you can in a boom. So if opportunities present themselves during a recession, which are too good to turn down, you need the cash and the ability to seize on those opportunities.
I agree with you.
So don't be lean on the bank account. Make sure you've got cash around. If you haven't got it, raise it and just sit there. Watch what the market does, and don't take your eye off the ball. Keep watching, see how the monthly figures are, see how inflation and the forward swap markets are doing in terms of rates, and just wait for that opportunity, because the first signs of nervousness is auction results. If you look at the recent auctions, things weren't selling as well. Very few lots sold, and that's normally the first indication that the professional investment market is a bit nervous as well.
So that's a great point, and I'm glad you brought it. So you, as an estate agent, watching and what you're saying is, and you've said this previously on our programs, 1 in 3 properties don't sell at estate agents. Is that right?
The same person, 1 in 3 properties listed by the same agent isn't sold by the same agent. It goes to somebody else.
It goes through sort of 2 or 3 cycles. By that, 3 cycles of estate agents.
It can do.
Yeah. And whereas auctions have an immediate, give you an immediate snapshot of what the market's doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that people are buying for investment purposes. They want to make money on it. So if they get cold feet saying, hang on, if I buy this at this price and I spend that much on refurbishing it, am I really going to get my price, or is there going to be a demand at 6% interest rates to buy my investment?
Yeah.
If I'm looking to do a flip,
is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Is it worth the hassle to refurb it? And is it worth the hassle if I'm going to have to pay 6% on my buy to let to keep it going?
Yeah. So you've obviously been learning lessons of your great auctioneer friend, right?
Yes.
Did you get him on the show as well?
Will do, yeah.
Yeah, no, he'll be a great guy to have on the show because he understands auction. Now, the other thing you just said there, I'm just going to pick up if you've got a couple of minutes. Raise capital and wait for the opportunity. So are you saying if you've got room in your portfolio, be brave, raise cash and get ready for a buying opportunity?
Yeah, if that's your game plan, if you're looking to make further acquisitions, a good time to do it is in a recession.
Yeah.
Because there will be a lot of distressed sales. There will be repossessions coming around when people can't afford to pay their mortgages anymore.
Unfortunately,
so
yes.
That's what I'm saying. Let's wait until the autumn statement, because there might be some incentives or government schemes that will help kickstart or maintain the property market momentum. So let's not make any hasty forecasts right now before we hear what their plans are.
So wait for Halloween.
31st, Halloween.
Wait for Halloween. Bob, are you going to come back after Halloween?
Sorry?
Are you going to come back and dissect the budget after Halloween?
I'll come dressed as a pumpkin if you want me to.
No, he'll come back on Guy Fawkes Day.
Guy Fawkes, yeah, that's actually, yes. Is that the next show after the Halloween show? Bloody hell. Sorry. Nearly got me swearing there.
I'll come as myself. That's scary enough.
No. I think coming as Liz Truss is scary enough because he can't take. He can't do. Surinder, Bob, that's some great advice. Thank you. That's really good. Great.
It's been good.
Surinder, Charanjit, any more questions?
Anybody on
the chat? Any questions?
Yeah, could I please ask one?
Sure.
Yeah,
go ahead.
as long as there's no swearing.
No, there's no swearing. It's twofold, really. Bob,
That's two questions, right?
Where is development funding sitting at the moment, and do lenders like build to rent?
Development,
two questions.
Development is still happening. Lots of appetite still in the development lending space. Rates have edged up slightly.
Okay.
And buy to rent, yes.
Okay.
Still an appetite for that, not an issue. So if you're building to rent, yeah, we can get multi-unit freehold block type funding. The rates are obviously higher, but still I think because the yields are better on those sort of things, it's still a viable proposition for many customers.
Thank you.
So, Bob, a bit more detail on the build to rent aspects. How does that work in terms of land and build value? What do they finance? And what are the rates?
If you own the land outright, you'll get 100% funding.
For the build?
Yeah.
Okay.
Land without planning, 50%.
Okay.
Land with planning, 75% is easily attainable.
So you get 75% on the land?
Yep, and then 100% of the build.
And 100% of the build. So you only need 25% of the land to start, right?
This is for experienced people.
Okay.
It's not for first-time buyers or first-time sort of dipping your toe in the market. This is a market now, I think, really for the professionals. If you're doing this for the first time, now may not be the best time to actually experiment.
So 50% no planning.
50% no planning, correct.
Okay.
Well,
and what sort of rate? Sorry, just to finish off on that sort of land build to rent scenario, what sort of rates we look at?
On development, we do have banks that are still quite competitive. The specialist lenders are coming in at about 0.7, 0.8 a month.
Okay. 0.8 a month. So it's what? 9.6 over a year.
Yeah, just call it 10. Yeah.
10. Okay.
Yeah.
Changing the topic a bit.
We have banks that were doing it at 6% pre mess up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we had banks that were doing development funding at 6%. So again, it depends very much on the caliber of the individual, the quality of the development and location, and the perceived demand for the rental in that area, which hopefully should be good anywhere.
Yeah.
Julian, great question. You could come back on next week's show as well.
Thank you. Is RBS in that market?
RBS, so I don't deal with RBS, but there are some overseas banks that we deal with that are in that market, yeah.
Okay. Stay clear of RBS, they're not very good.
No, I only ask RBS because I've done a lot of care home development with RBS.
What sort of level of developments do you do, if you don't mind us asking?
Well, I don't do anything at the moment, but I've done a lot of new build care homes.
And how long ago was that?
My last one was finished in 17.
Yeah.
2017.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you'd like to come on the show and present us with your experience, that'd be great.
Cost analysis. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd love to learn about that. No, that's great question, Julian. Surinder, before I rudely interrupted.
Yes, I just want to change the topic. In commercial market, what's that like?
Yeah.
Commercial lending is still there. Loan to values have always been pretty low compared to the buy-to-let market at sort of 60, 65%, but I would say work on 50% to be safe.
But is it 50% of the purchase or the valuation?
Of the purchase price. The banks go by the lower of the purchase price or the valuation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Bridging lenders work on valuation.
Mm-hmm.
Commercial lenders work on the lower of purchase price or valuation.
And how long before you can revalue a commercial to get your more money out?
Depends which lender, but allows 6 to 12 months.
Okay, great.
Bridging's silly money at the moment, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Bridging, yeah. I mean, I'm just doing one at sort of 0.6, 0.7, which is not bad given the state of the market.
Okay. Do you deal with Aspen?
Sorry?
Do you deal with Aspen much?
Aspen? No, we don't do Aspen.
Okay. I was quoted 0.75 the other day, but when you add all their fees and charges, it works out at 6.
Yeah, well, the typical lending is 2% fees, then you've got the solicitor's fee, valuation fee.
Yeah.
And if they've got fees for their QS to come in, you need to factor all those in, obviously, into the overall picture.
So, Julian, did you say it's 0.75% a month, but it works out at 6? Sorry.
I think when you add in, it was 45 grand's worth of charges.
Oh, okay.
It sort of worked out at 6. I mean, I'm not a good numbers person, but my banker friend told me that's what it was.
Well, so that's £45,000 worth of extra charges.
I think so. Yeah. Let me have a look. See if I can
What
find
sort
it.
of loan were you looking at once?
Well, it's on an HMO, so it had to be 50%, I think.
Wow, that's crazy money, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So be careful of that. It's the total amount of cost you pay. No, great comment there. Surinder, any more questions for?
Well, it's been a very, very interesting and insightful session.
Bob,
Thank
got
you,
one
Bob.
more question before Surinder shuts us off.
Yeah, go on.
When are you running for number 10?
I left the Tory party, so no chance now.
Don't worry, they'll take anybody. They're desperate, mate. They haven't got enough.
I'm an atheist now. I don't belong to any party. So.
They don't care. They just want to win an election. Let's put you on, Captain Bob, right? Come on, mate. You got to have a go.
Yeah. Okay. You convince him in your time.
I'll work on it.
Thank you to him for being.
I'll get your vote anyway.
You'll get my vote 100%. Right, Surinder.
Yeah.
Well, I welcome Captain Bob persuading him to run for election.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions from anybody else apart from the panel? Nope. Okay. Anyway, so thanks very much for everybody coming on, and thank you, Bob, for your
Thanks, Bob.
thing. And,
Always a pleasure, Surinder. Always a pleasure.
And
We'll see you on Halloween. We'll see you on Guy Fawkes, right?
bring your effigy.
I've actually got a Dracula outfit.
Oh, well, that's for Halloween. That's not for
Yeah, I've got a Dracula
Guy
outfit.
Actually, why don't you bring it on the 3rd of November? Come back and analyse the budget. Statement.
That'd be good. Yes, don't mind. Yeah.
Okay.
So
thanks,
don't
Bob.
forget, I'm on strike next week.
Why? So we don't need to talk about it then. So just
I want a pay rise.
So you want a pay rise?
Yeah,
What do you want?
pay rise.
Just name the figure.
Well, okay. Don't we have to have a negotiation off the record?
No, you tell me the figure.
What, £5 an hour? £5 an hour is fair enough.
Yeah, that's
No, I
fine.
want more 50p's. I haven't got enough. I keep running out of them.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you £5 for that. Okay?
Oh,
How's that? 10 times
come on, man.
inflation.
We can't do a negotiation on the air. We've got to do a private negotiation.
Fair enough.
I'm
Okay.
still going on strike next week.
Okay.
And then I'll see Bob week after next in his Dracula costume when he analyses the budget statement.
Fair enough. That's good.
Thank you, Bob.
All right, thanks.
Really great insight.
Thanks, Bob.
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge, your insight, your 21 years worth of experience.
42.
Come on, man, play the game. You can't say things like this. It's supposed to age downwards, not upwards.
1980, I joined the bank.
That's before they had mobile phones, right?
1976, I bought my first property.
The phones were that big, you know, those brick ones.
No, well, I had the one before that.
Oh, before that, the carry case.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay,
I didn't get
Bob.
my
Bob,
first phone
final
wasn't-
question, honest question.
Go for it.
Should they have kept Boris?
Definitely not, in my opinion.
I like Boris, right? I'm not a political guy. I like
I like
like
Boris,
the guy.
but their
He's,
turmoil behind the
he's
scenes.
thrown his name into the hat.
Yeah.
if they bring him back, they're going to get slaughtered at the next election. That's my prediction. If he becomes prime minister now,
A leopard doesn't change his spots. So I think unless they're prepared for more bad news, no.
no,
They
they
need
should-
a pair of hands. We need Rishi Sunak. I think he's the man for the job right now.
yeah.
Possibly
Really?
Penny Mordaunt. She's quite good. I think she's capable.
The problems behind the scenes, though, everyone needs to get behind them, don't they?
Yeah. But I think Rishi's kept too quiet for my liking. He's not really made any comments at all, has he?
Well, no, he caused enough trouble against Boris, didn't he?
And that's what's going to hold him back.